So the next case study will explain how to focus on the depth of a family tourism offer. But this is beyond the immediate lure of fun activities. It's how to know your audience, specifically the multi-generational US market. We have Jennifer Tombaugh, President of Tauck. Hi Jennifer, can you introduce yourself and Tauck, please?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Tombaugh and I'm the President of Tauck. We're the first licensed tour operator in the United States. We were founded back in 1925. We operate almost about 150 different itineraries on all 7 continents and 70 different countries on land, river, and small ship cruising. We have 6 brands, and one of them is very special to me. It's Tauck Bridges, and that was my first job at Tauck 17 years ago, was to launch Tauck Bridges, and that serves a multi-generational family traveler. So we have parents with children, grandparents with grandchildren, and then we have the whole family traveling with us together. And it's a wonderful way for families to discover the world through guided travel. It's been an exciting area of growth for Tauck. We have 19 different itineraries, and we continue to see double-digit growth for the brand.
Jennifer, to meet the shifting aspirations of travellers, group tour operators have had to make major changes to products in recent years. Now, Tauck is one of the major players. How has it kept ahead of the game in attracting new travellers and yet staying relevant to existing loyal vacationers?
Guest needs do evolve and change, and we've seen lots of those trends around wanting more personalization and more choice. Wherever you go, people are much more sophisticated travelers than they used to be. There's a wealth of information out there available to them. I think there's something like 400 different web encounters that a guest might have before they actually decide to travel and make their decision of where to go. And yes, there's some things that have remained timeless, and there's 2 things that Tauck does extremely well in capturing those timeless benefits. One is doing it for you. We give our guests great peace of mind of not having to worry about the details. Our trips are guided. They're largely all-inclusive, and so you don't have to reach into your pocket, and you know that somebody else is taking care of the details. For families, this is incredibly important because let me tell you, as a mother of 4, there is nothing better than having your children ask somebody else about what's happening next and where we're going and what's happening, what activities are planned, and you can just sit back and be present with the people who mean most to you in the world. And that's a wonderful, wonderful gift that you can give to any adult, is to be surrounded by your family and just enjoy them in a place that you may never visit again. The second thing that Tauck does extremely well is give you access to things that you couldn't do easily on your own, or if at all. So it might be, it might be a private visit inside the Vatican. I was with my children in a small group looking at the Sistine Chapel, watching my kids run around the Sistine Chapel and gaze at these wonders that Michelangelo created. I mean, what kind of gift? I mean, that's priceless. It's hard to imagine those sorts of benefits when you're just traveling on your own and trying to figure out some of the details. So what child, what person doesn't want that exclusive behind-the-scenes experiences that you can enjoy? And we tried to do that again and again and again on a Tauck Bridges journey. We do see overall desire among not only American travelers, but all travelers to want a more personal experience. We know over and over again that it's that one-on-one encounter, that relationship that you build with someone in the world of hospitality and where you travel. People go for the place, but they remember the people and they remember the stories. And so we want to make sure that we arrange and choreograph and craft our programs to allow as many of those opportunities to create that personal connection as possible. So from the time someone chooses to travel with us to the time they leave, we're looking to make sure that we're speaking to the individual and that we're thinking about what kind of choices and interests that they have are met on our programs through our Tauck directors. And having that someone there, like these amazing Tauck directors, to guide the experience for the guests and understand what the kids want, what the parents want, what the adults want, and make sure that we're hitting on all of those needs, makes for a perfectly crafted experience and really hits on delivering on a rising and growing need in the world of travel.
So we read about millennial family travel fueling demand for tours. Is this a real trend, Jennifer? And are there products out there to suit family needs?
Yes, I actually believe that this trend is true. We recently learned that 40% of millennial families, sometimes we tend to sort of glom all the millennials together, but 40% of millennial family travelers have shown a desire to take a guided family travel vacation. So they're looking for those benefits that I've just talked about, which is access and peace of mind. They want to have somebody craft a great experience for them and for their families. So that is certainly going to fuel a lot of future opportunities and growth in the multi-generational travel market. So while we see great future opportunity that's just starting with millennial families and their desire to travel with their children, what's powering the industry right now for us in the United States is the U.S. baby boomer. Every day, 10,000 baby boomers come into the core of Tauck travelers. They are our folks who are in their 60, 65, who want that time with their children and with their grandchildren. And we hear that every day on the phones as they're calling up to book one of our 19 programs on land or on river. And they're excited about showing off a destination that maybe they've been to before, or maybe it's a brand new place for, again, their extended family. And they recognize that the best gift that they can give those kids is travel, is experience. And experience is the new luxury. We hear that all the time. And rather than buying them things, just like the millennials aren't looking for things, so are baby boomers and millennials looking for those experiences. And we see that driving many, many, many generations of multi-generational travel in the future. What we've learned since we've launched Tauck Bridges is you simply can't use the same guides that you used for the core Tauck product and suddenly port them over into Tauck Bridges. You can't necessarily use the same hotels or do the same activities. As with anything that you do in marketing or in good product design, you need to think about what's really going on in the consumer's mind. You need to really think about what are their needs and how are you going to meet them. We're developing shared experiences. We're developing time for those families to be together. And so we want to make sure that we're picking those guides who are not only great at taking care of all the details and handling all the things that might come up on a program, but they're thinking about ways to make magic happen for those families so that they can have those wonderful, magical shared experiences. And so it's really, really important not to lose sight of what's going on in the mind of that American consumer when they're making that decision. They're making the decision, and it's usually the mother or the grandmother, with the child in mind. And so as, again, partners and suppliers think about serving this market, it's very, very important that you don't lose sight of the trends and activities and things that will excite the child.
So the US dollar against the euro has come back a tad since the highs of a year ago, although it's still well ahead of the lows of 2013 and 14. Jennifer, how do you think this will affect tourism to Europe in 2018?
So certainly the weakening of the dollar is something we've been paying a lot of attention to. But I have to say, I think there are three trends that are counteracting that, and what makes, therefore, the market for multi-generational travel still quite rosy. First of all, there's a lot of pent-up demand. We saw over the last couple of years with various security incidences across Europe that there was a hesitancy among families to go specifically to Central Europe. After some of the attacks in London and Paris, families backed away. We're starting to see that recovery. We know that Europe is always going to be a draw for Americans, and especially for children, mainly because they're learning a lot of Romance languages in school, and they're wanting to go and explore these places. And so now that things have been a little bit calmer, the American traveler is becoming more resilient, there's a desire to go back. And I think given that oftentimes families have such a short period of time, maybe it's 3 or 4 years in which they can travel with their children, they want to take advantage of it. The second thing is value. So right now, airfares are still pretty reasonable for a family to travel. And so when you look at a combination of not only what the actual cost might be currently, but what the airfare will be in totality, it still represents a huge hugely strong value for the American consumer. That said, we're going to be watching that closely as we get into 19. And so it's very important that we at Tauck, for example, continue to communicate all that's included and all the value that we create, again, with access and making sure that people understand that it really is that great guided experience, that peace of mind that we're delivering that makes those dollars kind of all worthwhile. And then the last bit is, I will say, the peace of mind. We are, as Americans, becoming more resilient. I mentioned that earlier. And for better or for worse, it's making us more adventurous. Mark Twain, the great American writer, said that travel is fatal to bigotry, prejudice, and narrow-mindedness. And I think Americans are finally taking that to heart and saying, I want to give my kids the gift of travel, the gift of a lifetime. And they're going out and doing it. And Europe is very, very high on their list and will always be.
Thanks, Jennifer. It's been great to have you with us, and I'm sure our partners will find immense value in what you've shared.